We should have probably turned this over so it was more sparkly.
Yeah, sparkly's always good.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah. See that?
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
That was last week's show. We had that reference.
We need Bill O'Reilly to come in and fucking.
All right, I think we're live. Hopefully we're live.
Are we live?
If we are live, this is ACAB Radio, broadcasting live from the Center for Science and Wonder, our new home. Thanks to Annifer and everybody here for allowing us to use this great space. And I'm your host, Jay Leifer, King Ron, Special K, and our very special guest, Ballentine. Thank you for being on. We got a good show for you. We're going to talk about some things that happened in the past as well as what's going on presently, and some updates to some stories that we talked about on past episodes. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in.
Also, as long as we're announcing that we're at Seesaw, which is like a new development, but
For us.
they've got events that they do here weekly. Every Wednesday they do a potluck at 6:30. Every Thursday their open night goes on where they have comedians, musicians, dancers, poets, magicians. That's fucking good. You should come see a magician. But pretty much it's open mic, so you can come do whatever the fuck you want. You can do that thing where they have that cup of water and you jump off a giant ladder.
And we do have the ladder,
Right.
so that's cool.
And then every Friday they have a comedy night, which is hosted by Marcus Dietz. And they have a special thing now where if you say that you saw this on ACAB Radio, it's 2 for 1, so you get a discount.
Right, and
Nice.
just to be clear, the comedy show isn't this show, no matter what they say. There's a separate comedy
Except we're
show.
coming
that's
to the
actually-
open mic night, and we're doing that jumping into a pool thing. From,
Well, into a cup of water. We can do that.
yeah.
Another cool thing is they let us bring back Las Vegas Radical Movie Night, which was the first time last night. And
Yeah, very successful, really good, informative, and it will be the last Monday
Of every month.
of every month.
Radical Movie
what time?
Night.
Man,
7 o'clock.
yeah, you're making me think
7-ish.
here, holy cow.
Sorry.
7 o'clock p.m. because nothing happens in the a.m. That's what it's getting up for.
Right, and you're all welcome, and that's a great event.
Yep, we showed The Interrupters.
That was movie, and it's available online if you weren't able to join us yesterday or this past one day. It's real worthwhile to see. It's really telling, and it goes into a lot of things that a lot of us aren't aware of or have access to. So
And it's also from Chicago, and when everybody carries on about how the Black Lives Matter people and, black people in general, and the people carry on about how nobody cares about violence and why is it so
Yeah,
horrible
black
in
on black
Chicago, why can't they
crime
do
and-
anything about that? That whole movie's about what they're doing.
right,
It's,
it blows that idiot theory right out of the water, and it shows that the community does take care of the community. So,
And it's on Amazon Prime and all that stuff. And,
yep.
I probably shouldn't be advertising Amazon Prime, but it's there, and you can watch it for free. So
It's also available on Pirate Bay if you want to download it.
Are they still? Is there a new Pirate Bay?
I don't know. I don't use Pirate Bay. I use a different torrent website. I mean, I don't.
I don't know if you have to download it illegally.
well, I'm not
I've
saying
heard.
you should look movies up and watch them online for free, but you can do that incredibly easily, and I do it all the time.
All right.
Okay, so-
I just had the pleasure of meeting Ballentine today. You guys have a history with her, so why don't you tell our audience how y'all met? What are some of the things you guys did in the past? And yeah.
That could be pretty cool.
Well, Ballentine lived here in Vegas before she went up to Olympia, and we've known each other. Me and Ballentine personally have known each other for 10 years?
Since I think 2009.
Yeah, through the A Cafe. And various other things. Occupy was one of them, the fake Occupy that they had here in Las Vegas. And so we were part of the second Occupy that happened at the same time once we figured out it was fake. And Then we were involved in Sunset Activist Collective,
What's that?
right?
Yep,
That's our gang sign.
yep.
I'm no longer on the gang registry, by the way.
Ah, thank God for small
We miss
favors.
you.
I'm sorry. I'm not an OG anymore.
I'm sure they'll fix that now that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an oversight.
yeah.
So, the thing that most people would know that we were involved in, and if you haven't seen what happened in Vegas, it's covered in that as part of the story about Stanley Gibson. And we started chalking, because I knew Stanley Gibson in high school, so we started really getting involved in anti-police brutality issues based on that, and really expanded into all of the different people that Metro has murdered. And Metro didn't like that we were bringing attention to them. We were going out and chalking. And for anybody that doesn't know, chalking is really an effective and really easy to do thing. It costs practically no money. There's no sort of actual property damage involved. And it's basically people can just come by and clean it up if they bring more than 2 gallons of water with them. And, don't have lazy people that can't work a broom.
Right,
Yeah.
And it's,
Talking about
and it's
you,
protected by the First
Pretty
Amendment.
boys.
yep.
But, so the other thing is, instead of having 5 or 6 people holding a sign, you could have 5 or 6 people cover a sidewalk within a relative short time. So it also maximizes the ability, because if you can get 5 or 6 people, that's enough. If you can get 30 people, that's, more than enough.
And you can only fit so much on a sign. You can, in 25 feet of sidewalk, you can write anything you want to write.
Yeah, it's like having 100 signs, but you only need maybe 5 people.
And the other thing that's really cool about it is that after the event is over, that stays there until it fades away, because most people don't come out and clean it up.
Yeah.
Because it's public sidewalk and they're not going to bother.
And the
So,
bigger,
for hours and hours and days sometimes.
yeah, and their big argument was like, who's gonna, that has to be cleaned up and everything, but the problem is, like, my thing was, it actually doesn't have to be cleaned up, because unless you're ashamed of what it says, and you're a cop that murders people, or a cop that supports a cop that murders people, you can just leave it there.
Yeah,
But,
the rain will wash, the elements will wash it away
That's
eventually.
the other thing is,
But
Foot
they don't-
traffic.
people
Yeah.
walking and wind and all that cleans it up on itself.
Yeah.
Unless you're so worried about what it says, you don't want anybody to see it.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's the big issue, is you guys were bringing attention to things that they wanted swept under the rug. I mean, they don't want tourists hearing about how bad it really is out here with Metro killing
Right.
people left and right. So,
Yeah.
you guys were the original Sunset Five, and you were charged with graffiti for doing chalk on
Placing
the
graffiti and conspiracy to place graffiti.
So that's the thing, is they didn't like that we were bringing attention, and we were actually connecting different groups, even people that weren't doing chalk. We had people there were holding signs, we had people sharing the messages online, we had a lot of different stuff, and we could go into more, like, I personally feel like activism is a way of public relations. You hit them with everything you can, you bring attention to it. And, the cops do that. Every time they pull a splinter out of a dog's toe, they have that online.
Hero cop.
And they just happen to
Propaganda.
have a guy there with a camera to record it.
Yeah, or when they pass out turkeys during
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Or when they do coffee with a cop, but they don't bother to have coffee,
Yeah,
Well, the
know.
cops get free coffee.
yeah, that was,
which is against their
Okay.
policy, but they get free food and free coffee everywhere. But so they specifically targeted us, and originally they gave us citations, and when that didn't discourage us, then they conducted a 2-month investigation.
From the gang unit.
Yeah, with the gang unit, and charged us with applying chalk, applying graffiti. And I'm not sure if everybody got charged with the conspiracy charge. or if
Well,
it was just
everybody
us
got,
two.
the others got charged with conspiracy to place graffiti and placing graffiti, but they only got 1 count each. And you and I had 2 counts each, and we're looking at 4 years in jail.
Right. So there was
Thoroughly
conspiracy
dangerous
to
people.
write something on the sidewalk with chalk was one of the charges. So, and each of those charges carried a year, so potentially we could have been in jail for 4 years.
Yeah, I would have just been getting out probably.
I would've went down there and, picked you up at the Golden Nugget or wherever.
Yeah, it's always the golden nugget. That's where when you get out of Vegas jail.
They should at least give you a roll of quarters.
They
you know?
should.
I don't know, I heard stories that when guys were released, and if you went with your paperwork, they used to give you a meal back in the old
Yeah,
days.
you don't want it though.
No, I meant at
Giant
the
end of a
Golden,
hot dog.
no, I meant at the Golden Nugget.
Oh, at the
Yeah,
golden nugget.
you would give it
I wish
and
I'd
they
known
would,
that. I wonder if I could go back now.
Yeah.
Be like, hey.
yeah,
Yeah, I just saw CCDC was on Dirty Dining.
yeah.
Yep.
And they-
I was in there when that
They have a Yelp
article
page
came on, I was sitting in my
That's
cell
right.
watching.
Oh, no. Biting into a sack nasty.
I didn't eat for 3 days when I was in there because when I was going in there, I told them no pork, I don't eat pork, and everything they gave us was pork. And they gave us the giant end of a hot dog. Everyone got the same piece, and it was disgusting.
Yeah. I don't know where they took the center of that fucking giant hot dog.
Oh, yeah.
Where the bun was at, like the giant fucking
It
bun
was
they put that
this
thing
big
into.
around.
It was a fucking giant end of a hot
They
dog.
expected me to eat that shit.
I didn't eat for 3 days either. I ate 4 actually.
Yeah, 4.
Fuck.
Terrible.
I ate fucking cookies. But one thing, if you're in jail, you are really popular if you give all your food away.
Yeah.
So that's the one advantage.
We were popular in jail anyway.
Remember that.
Next time we're in, don't forget to say hi, know your cellies, for sure.
I still talk to 2 of those guys. They're
Nice.
Nobody talks to me from jail.
I like going in and recognizing people, it's like, meeting them up at the mall and stuff, hey, how's it going, what you been up to, I haven't seen you in a while.
Right? I couldn't fucking call anybody or anything.
No.
Bastards.
Yeah.
So after Vegas, you moved to the Pacific Northwest. Where did you move to, Ballentine?
After the chalk incident, I had to quit my job because I went crazy from being in jail, and I moved to Olympia, Washington.
All right, and what's been going on up there? I know I've seen a lot of like alt-right, some neo-Nazis, Proud Boys, and a lot of rallies going on up there. So why don't you give us an update on what's going on out there?
Anytime those jokers show up, they get chased out of town, and it's sometimes hundreds of people will come out of the woodwork and just literally run them out of town. They came to my college to protest, and their tires got popped. They showed up at an abortion clinic to harass women and left. They actually had to call an ambulance for one of the guys.
No.
He got pepper sprayed and pelted with coffee, and it's great.
Horrifying.
I'm not involved in everything up there, but I've seen enough to know that we take care of fascists correctly.
And there are fascists everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It seems they have, gotten all over the place.
Not just that, but a big difference between the Northwest and Las Vegas is when the police murder somebody in the Northwest, there's protests that night. That night they're in the street giving the cops hell, and it's just hundreds of people. And I always say that if I got murdered by the police in Las Vegas, there wouldn't be people in the streets. But if I got murdered by the cops in Olympia, that night there would be people blocking the roads.
So
Yeah, I know after Tashi Brown Farmer was murdered out here, it wasn't that night, but they did block the strip, and I wasn't there for that event, but you guys were there. And
No, actually,
See, we were in
They were in
Olympia.
Olympia, yeah.
Ballentine's.
were in-
We had our own pre-event.
Right.
oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a video of that online where,
Yeah,
they
we
come out.
did a pretty immediate response, and that's online, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, the
That's
other
one
event.
of the unfortunate things here, and I don't want to criticize anybody specifically about that, but because everybody does it around here. But in Vegas, if you want to have a protest, people will wait till the weekend.
Yeah.
You know? they want to make sure it's convenient for people to protest. You know?
Yeah.
There's all spontaneous
It'd be nice if
outrage.
people would just fucking hit the streets as soon as something happened.
And it doesn't have to be anything huge, like just going down and chalking them is enough.
Right.
You know, it's a
Activism,
start.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is an opportunity. I know that the charges were dismissed against Officer LaPera for the murder of Tashi Brown, but there's a public fact-finding or something along those lines that they're calling it next month, I believe, right?
September 11th.
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
9/11, that's
And I'm
right.
sure that date was a coincidence because they didn't think that that would distract people from.
Yeah, the most
going down.
patriotic day. How dare you question the police on 9/11?
Yeah,
Our first responders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it now.
exactly.
Definitely not a coincidence. And I mean, what's done is done. He's walking. He's a free man. But
And he'll probably be working for another police force.
It was done for a reason, and I
Yeah.
guarantee you, the two things about that is they delayed it for 3 months, 4 months actually, to make sure it didn't fall in front of the election. But I also think another component of that was probably the sheriff and the DA made the promise to all the cops, you know, we'll let this guy go, but make sure you reelect us first.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if somebody were to grow a pair and actually look into Wolfson's finances or something, you would probably see a kickback from the police unions or, you know, some shady money shifting around between, you know, prosecutors and police unions and LaPera. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Listen, this is a small town, man. I don't care how many people are here. It's run like a small town. Everybody knows everybody, and there's
David
a lot of
Roger
shit.
is the former prosecutor that came before Wolfson, and he's the attorney for the police.
Yeah,
so
I
you
wouldn't-
have one former prosecutor defending the police, and then the current prosecutor prosecuting, and that's got to be a conflict of interest.
Right.
Who was originally put in as the DA because he was replacing Roger, and he went to officially represent the police.
Which he used to represent criminals. Now he just protects them.
right.
Yeah.
Well, he used to protect the police by not charging them, and now he actually represents them in court.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So now there's some other stuff going on. I mean, I know in Olean is like a really strong IWW
Yeah.
presence. I mean, and
About
that's
50
something else.
members in our branch.
And you guys are doing some pretty beautiful stuff. I mean, I'd love for you to talk about Burgerville. I
Oh,
mean,
sure.
I'm
That's
so
out of-
excited
Burgerville's
about
in
Burgerville.
Portland, to be clear, but we have a lot of connections with the Wobblies in Portland as well. And they, in 2 locations, it's a fast food chain that's only Pacific Northwest. They are officially unionized now at these 2 locations. They won NLRB elections for these fast food restaurants.
Now, I mean, are they, what's a comparable chain? Are they like an Applebee's or more like McDonald's?
It's like a
Is it
like a Farmer Boys kind of.
So it's like a Whataburger kind of thing, like an in-between?
It's
fast
more
food?
like In-N-Out.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, if the workers could unionize there, fast food
And-
workers, we know then once it's done once, it could be replicated.
Oh, yeah, and it's not just that they've formed a union, it's that the union is actively protecting the workers from being fired arbitrarily,
Hours.
when they have pay disputes.
Yep.
We've filed several ULPs, unfair labor practices, and they've won. They won 10 grand off an unfair labor practice. The big thing currently is they're trying to say that no buttons, the workers can't wear pins to work. But if you're going to allow them to wear a Ghostbusters pin, you have to let them wear a union pin as well.
Right.
And I remember one of them speaking about that when we were up there in Olympia, how they specifically wore like a Ghostbusters pin to establish that. They would allow them to do that so that they could dispute that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tactics that are specifically meant to further the goals of the union and establish the rights of the union by doing stuff like that, where they show that the Burgerville doesn't care if you wear, Ghostbusters button or a button from somewhere else, but if you come in with something that's a union-based insignia or a button, something, then they're going to crack down on you.
Right, and I always thought that was already established, that they couldn't
Well, it
go out
is,
this.
but the business is used to kids that don't know their union law, and one thing the IWW has done at Burgerville is they've really trained these people on their rights and what the boss can do and what they can't do.
And that's also a universal thing where, like, when the cops are like, you can't film me, like, they're counting on you not knowing that you
Right.
actually can.
Right, they use ignorance all the
So
time.
so they
if you-
educate the workers to know what their rights are.
And
feel
only
like-
specifically, the most exciting things that have come up in recent times are that I want to say we, because it's not like a group doing it, but the community has taken a stand against fracking and the militarization of the port, and they've twice now blocked the port of Olympia for a week. And now the port of Olympia is not going to ship military cargo
Nice.
or fracking components.
That's a win, that's a
Yeah, no,
huge win, and
that's what I'm saying, is like up there's these wins that we keep having. We got the city to open more bathrooms for the homeless and for the community. And then, sorry, I got sidetracked.
Well, then let me
Yeah,
say this,
go on.
I mean, when I was up there, I was, like, after being here, I was so surprised at how many of the local businesses are more fair-minded, opening up spaces, having free spaces, and promoting, where here it's so hard to find anything like that. I mean, we were looking for months and months for places that would sponsor us or host us. And there it seemed there was, you know, stickers in windows and stuff.
Yeah, you'll see
it was
Black Lives
beautiful.
Matter,
Yeah.
trans people belong here. In my school, there's a rainbow flag and a Black Lives Matter flag just hanging above the gym. It's, you'll see signs in people's yards, and here you don't see that.
Yeah, it was a really good feeling.
I know that if I get in trouble on the streets of Olympia, I can run into any street and find one of those houses with a sign in it and knock on the door, and they'll protect me.
We have a long way to go here.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of those things here is people think like, oh, they locked the bathrooms at Circle Park, so we can't do anything about it.
And in Olympia, they locked the bathrooms at Heritage Park, and we absolutely did do something about it. People sat in the bathrooms and got arrested and ticketed. And then there was a protest at City Hall where people camped out at City Hall and people got arrested there. And then people stormed the city council meetings so that they had to shut down the city council meetings. And eventually the city agreed that there would be a 24-hour restroom because it's unacceptable to close restrooms after 10 p.m.
It's sad that that's what it takes, but it's awesome that people are actually doing it, you
And
know?
it's also, here, we've had examples of that. We had during the May Day March when they were trying to arrest someone for riding their bike after they told them to get out of the street, riding their bike on the sidewalk after they told them they couldn't ride in the street. And because we had about 200 people with us and they all stood together, we forced the cops to release that person. And we also had the more cops tax when people showed up to the city council, or they actually the county board, and opposed that, and they couldn't pass it.
I want to point out that currently on the Clark County Commission, all 7 seats are Democrats. So anyone that thinks that we can vote our way to police reform is mistaken. You know,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Republicans won't do it. The Democrats are currently in control and they won't do it. What's going to bring police reform has got to be something else. People have got to block the strip or something.
No, you need direct action.
Yeah,
Well,
direct action.
Direct
That's part of the
action.
thing is we don't have that idea that if you go out there and do it, so we don't get 200 people to show up. If we're lucky, we get 30 people to show up.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we actually have people here who fight against grassroots organizations. And a lot of the protests that go on are these establishment protests where, you know, the whole point of it is, you know, they dress it up in some kind of theme, but the reality of it is they're trying to sign you up to some
vote.
political party.
I don't miss the interference from the Democratic Party at all. My experience in Olympia is that I don't see these people trying to squash grassroots activism.
And manipulate,
And
yeah.
here in Las Vegas, that's everything you go to.
Yep. Absolutely. Another great thing I saw that happened up there was a protest at the ICE headquarters
Oh,
or
yeah,
detention center?
in Portland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was following that. That was amazing. Everybody
I
camped
went to
out.
that.
Yeah?
Well, what happened?
For about a month, there was an occupation surrounding the ICE facility in Portland.
Like they
and
couldn't even get to their office.
No, they successfully shut it down for a month.
Wow, that was awesome.
So when you were there, I mean, how was the mood? I mean, the
Well-
camaraderie amongst the people, I mean,
There was a lot of
Like-
camaraderie. We had more than we needed. The community really donated bottled water, camping supplies, everything you could ever want for a blockade. The Proud Boys showed up and threw feces at people.
like monkeys do.
Yeah, kind of. And, it eventually got shut down, but it wasn't the end. And, even though the occupation isn't ongoing, there's still actions. There's still people getting arrested. There's still a nightly vigil, I think. So things are being done to actively fuck with ICE in Portland, Oregon, as well as Tacoma, Washington, which is part of the current prison strike. They've gone on hunger strike in Tacoma.
So what else you have on your paper?
Thank you. I wanted to talk about Shell No, which I had a very limited role in. It happened in, I think, 2015. The company Shell wanted to put an oil rig essentially on the top of the world up at the North Pole in the Arctic, and it was a climate killer. And people from all over the Northwest came out in kayaks and blocked the ship that was hauling the oil rig up there, and they delayed this vessel from hauling the ship for the entire summer, to the point where they missed their window, because eventually it gets choked with sea ice and they can't go up there, and it successfully blocked that rig. Because of protests, there's not an oil rig on top of the planet.
That's awesome.
Power of the people.
Yeah, no, totally.
This is,
Part of the blockade down in downtown Olympia, with blocking those fracking supplies and the military equipment, was tied in with Standing Rock too. So like, whereas you had people going to the Dakotas and native land to protest Standing Rock, there were also people simultaneously in Olympia blocking the trains so that those fracking components couldn't go to the to Standing Rock.
Nice.
so, I mean, how many people, participate in this? I mean, do you need hundreds of people in order to make these things happen, or?
I don't think so. I think you can do the bathroom things. Had probably 20 or 30 people at any given time.
So very doable numbers. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
you don't need huge amounts of people to get things done.
Olympia Solidarity Network does a lot of tenants' rights advocacy, where like if you're getting kicked out of your home, they will go and they'll do a march on the boss kind of to the landlord. They'll go storm the landlord's office and yell at them until you get your deposit back or you're not evicted anymore. And they've had almost
Go out to a bar and get drunk, and it's just like, man, like sooner or later,
Not
you
saying
can
that
only
you can't
bury
do
your head
both.
in the sand for so long. You know what I mean? Like shit's got to be done in order for things to change. You can't just I vote once every 4 years. So
Yeah, that's not good
I've done my duty. You know what I mean? Like you got to get out there and make change happen. Like I love seeing what you guys are doing up there. I think it's amazing. I wish it was more like that down here.
I do too.
We
Yeah.
might have lost our connection on there.
Oh, did we lose our connection? Well, which
Is
one?
that when the little yellow thing with the exclamation point comes out? Does that mean we're off the air?
It's probably not good, but we could just keep going.
Well, overall, so,
Oh, so we're not live, but we're recording?
No,
well,
it's
not exactly,
I
yeah.
think it's good. It looks
So it
like
might be
it's still
bonus
going.
footage.
This could be, yeah.
Another thing I'd like to talk about is the cat Dahlia. There's currently a serial killer of cats in Olympia, who's killed 11 cats. We kind of cut them apart and displayed them, and it's causing like a lot of stress in the community. But the remarkable thing is that instead of people just letting the police handle it, people are doing community policing. They're like totally autonomously and independent of each other. people are patrolling the neighborhoods to try and protect cats and catch this cat killer. And there's been talk about like, well, if we do catch this person, what do we do? And they don't want to call cops. They want to publicly shame this person and find out where they
If you
live.
call the cops, they'll shoot the cat.
Right, yeah, more than likely, for sure. But I like that idea.
It's mutual aid. It's
And we're in favor of that because our show is called All Cats Are Beautiful.
Right, so we do protect our cats.
that's a recent thing in Olympia, and it's really inspiring, I think.
That's a good illustration of what the people can do. People can do in their own neighborhood for problems in their neighborhood.
You don't need the police. You can handle these things in your community without police involvement.
That's what that film was about, you know, The Interrupters. It's about community taking action instead of, you know, just calling the police.
And Olympia's not that big. It's like 48,000 people. So we're talking, you know, that's probably what Paradise, Nevada is, maybe. This is totally doable here. It's just you got to change the community culture a little bit.
That's something we, you know, well, through our show we try, and then through other groups. But, you know, it's pulling teeth here. You
Oh,
know
it
that.
is.
I mean,
It's 50 people versus a million.
so.
And then even within the activist community, there's a lot of divide out here. You know,
Yeah.
these people don't want to work with these people, those people don't get along with these people, and it makes it hard to come
It
together,
does.
even if everybody agrees on the cause. You know, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's harder. It makes it harder for organizing things.
It does, but if, you know, Olympia can do it, you know,
One
as we
tool
work towards
that
it.
we've had some success with up there is the New York City police brutality or anti-police brutality principles. And part of it is that we agree to respect a diversity of tactics. So if there are people who are strictly nonviolent and you know want to go through the process, it's open to them. But other people can try other things like direct action that's not frowned upon.
Well, and that's the other thing is, you know, if you want to work through the electoral system, you know, and waste your time at the, or, you know, at least waste your energy on supporting politicians, you know, rather than putting pressure on them and using the electoral system for that, there's no reason you can't. But here in Vegas, everybody wants it to be that's the only option.
Yeah.
They don't want, you know, any
You're right, they
say-
don't respect
They don't even
diversity.
realize, like, it's actually to their advantage to have people doing direct action, because then they come across like the reasonable people that the cops and all them want to negotiate with. So it actually works to their advantage, because they're like, the cops are like, I know I can't work with that guy, but look, these guys have some ideas, you know? But you can't explain that to people.
No.
Yeah.
And
They
because
don't-
all they think is, oh, you have to vote, and that's the only option.
Now, I don't know if you wanted to go, but I thought there was a list of do's and don'ts for, you know, how we deal with our own community, our activist community.
There is.
Was that something
I
that-
don't want to read it all out, but it's called the New York City Anti-Police Brutality Principles.
And it's not
It's
that
available
long.
online. Yeah, it's not. It's 5 bullet points.
So,
I could
hey,
read it,
listen, yeah,
sure.
read it, come on. We got nothing but time.
All right. Number 1 is we will respect a diversity of tactics. 2, we will not denounce fellow protesters in public statements. 3, we refuse to help police repress our movement. 4, we refuse to cooperate with politicians in legitimizing the repression of other parts of our movement. 5, we will avoid posting and circulating sensitive visual information on social media as police use it to collect incriminating evidence against protesters.
And those points are all important. You know, and it's something that all the activists here need to learn and practice, especially number 5.
Yeah,
Which they
I think
seem to be
especially
an
number
issue.
1 is the
Well,
biggest one.
that's
'Cause
true,
Here
too.
in Vegas, you run up against the people that are like, you can't break windows, and you can't sabotage things, and you can't block the street, and there's this mile-long list of things that we can't do.
Yeah, and we got to get a
free
permit.
ourselves.
We got to have a
Right.
permit, and
Yeah.
we need to invite a
Peace, and then you guarantee
politician.
there's gonna be peace,
Right.
you know?
It has no
You
teeth.
don't actually have to be violent, but, you know, you don't
Well,
have to tell
there's
them.
a lot of
Why does
not-
that have to be off the table?
That's the thing, you don't have to tell them you're not gonna be violent. You don't have
Right.
to assure them that nothing's gonna happen if you don't do something.
Because they're not doing that for you.
Because even that, when you look back, like, you know, You see, like, the bullies, like, in high school and stuff, they'd be like, give me your lunch money. You'd be like, no. And they're like, well, what are you going to do if I take it? And if you say, I'm not going to do anything, they're going to take it.
Right.
But if you make them think you might punch them in the mouth, they might think about it before they take it.
Right, and
Most of the cops are bullies, so.
right, and the state too, I mean, if you look at what they consider violence, blocking a street or a roadway is in no sense violent. They make a case for it, but, it's nonsense logic that they use.
Well, they'll block the
and-
streets for a week for Life is Beautiful with no trouble.
For a fucking marathon.
Yeah.
That only 1,000 people out of 2 million people in the
Yeah,
state.
if anybody who lives downtown, you know what we're talking about, cutting off our internet. and-
Yeah, cut off our internet signal and pay music that you can hear 5 blocks away.
They're actually trying to pass legislation against protests like that, calling it economic terrorism. If you
Right.
block a port, or you block a street, or you block a building,
Or a
you're an
business.
economic terrorist because you're not allowing them to, conduct their
You're not allowing
business.
them to profit off your misery, so
Yeah.
we got to put you in jail.
Yeah, sorry to inconvenience you, but we're trying to change the world.
And that's, from the beginning, from forever, that's the fucking tactic, is you cost people money if they're doing something.
Yeah, I don't think we can win.
Nowadays, it's like, oh no, we're going to inconvenience somebody,
I don't think we can win militarily, but I know we can win economically. And that's a power that the people have, is through a general strike or blocking roads or
Boycotting.
roads or something, boycotts. There's a
Yeah,
number of
absolutely.
economic tools that can be used that are really effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're sitting about a little after 3.
There was one article
Yep.
that I wanted to get into. I posted it on the page. My internet's not working now, but
No, so we're probably not live, right?
it was about the, no, I'm not using the Wi-Fi. It was about that officer-involved shooting. The guy ended up in the hospital, but they won't release
Is it
any of
local?
the details. Yeah,
Is it the last one where the guy was walking around, he had a gun to his head and they shot him?
I'm not sure.
There's been like 7 this
Yeah, there's
past
so
2
many.
weeks.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, they're up to
Then-
18 now for the year.
Yeah, it's
Gotta
at
go watch
18, but I
that.
think it was like 7 in
You know,
like 2 months or
We
something.
were discussing that. They said there's 4 this year that have been fatal, and I can name like 5 off the top of my head, so I think that's wrong. There was, up until that last one, there were 7 this month, which is closer to 2 weeks. I think it's been within this month, but it's been the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And now it's up to 8. And if you include Henderson, I think it's 9, but it's definitely 8.
Here it goes. It loaded. Said man who died at hospital while in Las Vegas police
Oh.
custody ID'd. A man died after Las Vegas police took him into custody. So they never.
So that's the other one. They haven't decided yet whether he just died or whether it happened something to do with him being in custody.
Yeah, they haven't released any details.
So I wonder what that's going to turn out to be.
That's from the Review Journal, right?
Yeah.
Listen, there was also an article about tear gas being released at the local high
Oh,
school.
yeah.
So that's the other
And,
thing.
and
is-
no, did the police release it? Did the student, there was no information other than just stating.
Well, that's
that-
happened about 4 times now.
Yeah, that happened
So-
when I was a teacher.
So there was one at El Dorado, there was another one, I'm not sure what school it was, but there was a football game where people started fighting and they maced everybody on the football field. And then there's this one.
And, yeah, but the article doesn't specify how it was released, who released it, or
I think
anything.
it's the
Usually
It
when
just-
that happens,
I can
it's
make a
the
guess.
police.
That's what I was going to say, that they won't come out right out and say
Well, that's
it.
part of, but that is part of the packaging of police violence by the media.
They purposefully
Is
frame it in a confusing manner.
they'll say tear gas was released, it just
Not
magically
police
was released.
fired
Yeah.
on unarmed. Yeah.
Right.
Because they won't say
And
that the cops tear gas people.
Yeah, it's the
No.
same way the mainstream media deals with Israel.
But-
They won't say Israel shot.
And so the other thing about
Right.
that is, however that turns out, if it's, if it was involved with the police, which I can almost guarantee you it was,
yeah.
that's not included on that list, so that'd be number 9.
Yeah, it's not in any officer involved
And then-
shooting or.
And the other thing about also, so they said there's 18 shootings, but
Mm-hmm.
there's been more than 18, there's been people killed without being shot.
Uh-huh.
So that's probably why the number is so low with the 4 fatalities, because they're not counting the people that weren't shot to death.
I think it's a mistake anyway, just like a typo. I think that they they meant to say
I
this
think-
month.
I think it's 4 out of those 7 that they were
Well,
deciding.
if you go,
Yeah.
Could be,
it just sounds better for them if it's 2 months because it was, August and,
right, they
And-
frame it in what seems like it's spaced out more.
yeah, but if you go in the
Within a-
last 30 days, yeah,
Right.
it was
And then
like
the
7,
one
I
that
believe.
the one I thought you were talking about, where the guy was threatening to kill himself, and he's walking around with a gun. Apparently, at some point, he fired off a shot. I think that was before the cops even got there. But he's walking around and he's holding the gun to his own head for hours. So, I mean,
Where's the
first of all,
crisis
he's not-
intervention team? Where's,
Well, on top of that,
Well,
he's
but
not.
they're-
He's not pointing it at other people.
Right,
You
there
could
was-
clear the area and be okay.
So, he's probably not serious about shooting himself if he's there for hours negotiating.
yeah.
And they had a SWAT sniper shooting
Sniper
from
took
a
him out.
distance.
Yep.
So, worst case scenario, they could have had the sniper, sight in on him and be ready to shoot him if he did something. But then they could have negotiated with him till as long as it took.
Yeah.
They
bean-
murdered that
beanbag
woman with the
rounds.
shovel. And
Yeah.
I remember that Metro had a rule at one point that to use deadly force against somebody with a knife or like a bat or something, they had to be closer than 14 feet. And it's never like how close was this person, and can't you just back up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because supposedly the crisis intervention team was on their way with that incident, but where's the de-escalation techniques? The guy gets out of the car, shoots her within 30 seconds. He's screaming at her, gun drawn, steps closer.
Yeah, he
steps-
gets
so it's
closer
him,
to her.
yeah,
Right,
going
he
to her,
doesn't-
not
yes,
her.
He's
And
violating
then-
that 14 feet, not
and
her.
and then as soon as she
Right.
turns in the to walk away from him, he shoots her 7 times. It's
And
unbelievable.
then they were like, yeah, there was somebody over there that she was heading toward.
Now, in the last
other-
last 7 shootings, there were a couple that you're like, thank God they killed this person. Like, there was one dude that was on top of a woman, stabbing her, and the cop literally saved this woman's life. You know what I mean? So you gotta give them credit there. But
I won't dispute
7
that
in a
sometimes they
month-
probably need to shoot somebody,
Yeah.
but there is no accountability, there's no trial, and there's not much of a hearing about it. So I think that anytime you have a cop use deadly force against somebody, you put them on trial.
Well, that's the thing is that I've brought that up several times, is that they don't do an investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't, on the surface seem inappropriate, you have to look at it and you have to investigate whether it actually was.
Yeah, we
because
have to-
Police
Well,
aren't going to do that.
Yeah.
No,
we have
and
to
every
question
shooting, they
shooting, yeah.
justify. So, even if it
And-
may look on the surface as it was legit, they try to justify shooting a suspect in the back while he was handcuffed, running away. They justify.
Orlando Barlow.
Right. So, even, you have to look with a judicious eye on every one of
And-
these, so.
And their story that they come out with originally is often different than what the real story
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Not to mention that there's violations of policy anyway. Like when they murdered Stanley Gibson, they're not supposed to deploy tear gas into a closed vehicle.
Uh-huh.
And yet that was their plan for apprehending him.
Yeah. And then it was the whole radios that Lombardo bought were
Yeah.
not working at the time,
And-
that they spent millions of taxpayer dollars on. The radios didn't work. They just lack of communication. They thought that, I don't know
Well,
if
what
everybody's
really
seen that
happened is
movie.
Jesus Arveo just wanted to
He just
take
wanted to kill
vacation.
somebody.
Yeah.
Well, he talked about it and wanted to
Yeah.
play with his new toy.
Yeah.
He wanted to
That's-
shoot somebody and he found an excuse to shoot.
And the same thing with Brian Yant, who's killed 3 people, including Trevon Cole, who was unarmed, and nothing's done. He's even promoted.
Well, I think he's with the union, right?
Yeah.
He's in charge of advising cops that shoot people now.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
who
got a
better
lot of
than somebody who
experience.
does
Well,
shoot-
the head of the union literally told us that.
Right,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, we should pull up that video.
yeah.
Because he literally told us, well, he's got a lot of experience. to shoot.
Sure does.
You can't dispute that.
There are
I saw
several
that video.
people in Metro that have killed multiple people and had not even a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. Yeah. And now they're just
Well-
training so many rookies that a
Well-
lot of the most recent ones are, people with a year or less on the force, and they're just out there. So I don't know, it's got to be the culture in the recruiting offices, how they're bringing these new recruits up. I mean, they're just trigger happy.
Well, and that's, part of it is if you know you could shoot somebody and get away with it.
Exactly. When you see officer after officer walking,
And
and
on
what
top
kind of message
even
does
get
it send?
rewarded for it.
Yeah. especially with Tashi Brown Farmer, what kind of message does that send to the community where somebody who wasn't even suspected of a crime, had he survived this attack, would not have been charged with a crime, and this officer choked the life out of him on camera in front of multiple witnesses, and
Including
he
his
walks.
supervisor.
So, including his boss, and he walks. What kind of message does that send to the community? Basically,
And-
anybody's
Well,
a target.
I got a $40,000 bonus out of it.
Yeah,
The
right?
community should be in the streets over this,
Yeah.
because they're not going to vote their way out of this.
No.
The only thing that the police are going to listen to is economic pressure.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the police made their statement when they did that.
Yeah.
What was the message? The message was loud and clear.
What it
I
tells.
mean, I don't think that there's any, confusion about exactly what they were telling the citizens.
I really
So,
think, and,
I'm not
I thought
confused.
about that, and I really think they made a deal, re-elect us, and we'll get him off.
Yeah, I believe it.
Because the sheriff election especially, most of the people that vote in that are cops.
You have to be a cop to run for sheriff.
Yeah. The main message that I think it sends to the citizens by letting Kenneth Lopero walk is you have to listen to an officer.
Right.
Basically, do whatever he tells you to do
Or
at
die.
any time,
Or
or
die.
you can be killed and he'll walk, and,
Yep.
and your family will be left,
Yeah,
in ruin.
that's right. You step out of line, we kill you, and that's what they're letting
And
the
then-
people know.
And then what message does it send to the officers? I mean, officers see this guy literally murdered somebody and got away with it.
Right.
He did it on camera with his bare hands. The guy didn't commit any crime. If he can get away with that, I mean, if a guy's running away from me and has a gun, if a guy's, flees in his vehicle or just takes off running, of course, I'm
Well,
going to get
flees
away
in
with
his
it. I'm going to
vehicle,
kill him and
they-
get a paid vacation.
Earlier this month, there was that cop downtown that was shooting through his windshield, like he was in a video game or an action movie or something.
Yeah,
Because
look,
it's
Mom, no
acceptable,
hands. Yeah,
it's
he had no
acceptable
hands on the wheel.
behavior.
Yeah.
And Metro has a history of rewarding cops for murdering people.
Right.
So when Eric Scott was murdered, they actually gave them an award.
Right.
Yeah.
When Stanley Gibson was murdered, after the 2+ years of paid vacation that Jesus Arevalo got, they allowed him to retire on disability before he was fired, even though they always say he was fired and he wasn't.
He wasn't.
They gave him $30,000 a year as that disability payment.
Same thing with Officer Lopero. When the story first broke, it was he was fired. See, they're holding him accountable.
Yeah.
He's fired. They're drawing up charges. Now it's
And he
coming
wasn't. He
out,
was allowed to
well,
retire.
it wasn't so much he was fired, he retired, which means he got all his unpaid vacation
Right,
time, his
he's always done it.
PTO, his
Yep.
The cops
pension
union
and
works
everything.
fine.
And he gets his retirement pension and everything.
So
Right,
you
he
see the
doesn't
story
lose.
change
So-
over time.
So I guarantee you, between the vacation
The
that
GoFundMe,
they basically never take,
Yeah.
which is it's basically a retirement plan because they don't really have to take vacation during the time that they're actually on there. Yeah, and the GoFundMe and all that, he didn't lose
oh,
a dime.
no,
during
six,
No, he
that.
came out-
six,
Yeah.
six
He probably
figures.
made
He
money.
came out, yes, smelling, like a rose. I mean, no financial hardship.
Yeah.
Got to sit at home
And
after.
And he's going to go
if he
end up
doesn't go
working
to
for
some
that-
other place and get a cushy job like that Arizona
That's what I was
town,
going to say. He's going to
Yeah.
end up working for that
Um,
department.
If he doesn't go there, he'll go to some cushy security job with somebody who's a buddy of the cops
Or go
an
work with the
ex-cop.
police union, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something. It's crazy,
So
man.
when you have no incentive whatsoever, no sort of negative impact to your life, when you murder somebody, and you know you're just going to get away with it, there's nothing going to prevent you from doing that.
Yeah.
Right, and that's intentional. I don't think that they want officers to not behave this way.
No,
They
they're not
want-
sweating at all.
They want them to behave this way, and it's a message to the people. There's a
Yeah.
police war against the people,
Uh-huh.
and they do everything in their power to make sure that every citizen knows it. Every time you see it on the news, every time that a police officer gets off, they're letting you know your place, and what happens if you step out of line or open your mouth or look sideways at an officer, they don't like what you do or say, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead, and that should scare people, and it still hasn't scared people enough for them to take more direct action, to want to hold the police accountable. It stuns me sometimes. If you go out to the community and you talk to people, People of color, when you get stopped by a police officer, what's the first thing that runs through your mind? And majority, am I going to live through this experience? Whether it's a taillight being out or whatever bullshit.
Philando Castile, officer, I just want to tell you I have a firearm on me. Boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Right.
So even when you're trying to avoid getting killed by letting him know, because he doesn't want him to find the gun on him, look, man, I have a concealed weapon on me, I have a permit, blah, blah, and the guy shoots him.
In the summer of 2015 in Olympia, Officer Ryan Donald shot 2 black men who were accused of stealing beer from a gas station. They were brothers, and he paralyzed one of them and wounded the other. And he wasn't fired. He wasn't brought up on charges. They were charged. But the difference, I think, is that there was a campaign against the police to protest them, to the point where I think cops there are actually worried about shooting people or murdering them, because they know that it's not going to be easy on them. And we have to create a condition like that, where they're afraid to pull their guns when they don't need to.
And it actually goes the other way, because on the last show we showed where somebody was being held hostage, and instead of just waiting or at least trying to aim or something, they just shot the hostage. And the other thing,
No accountability, why not?
the guy who ran into the Trader Joe's, the cops just shot at him and hit the woman in the back, behind him in the background, and killed her, and they charged him with murder.
Yeah. When they shot all those people when they were hunting for Chris Dorner. Every time the cops are in fear for, there's an actual situation where people are out to murder them, they shit the bed. They don't know how to handle it.
Right, so they unloaded 100-something rounds on 2 Asian women, one of them who's an old woman, looked nothing like Dorner, was driving a different truck, and just...
They almost killed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think they had to buy them a new truck. I think that was their their whole...
I'm sure they got one on the police impound where they confiscated it, they stole it from somebody.
When you have just carte blanche just to shoot people, you're going to exercise that.
I've overheard the cops in Olympia, saying they can't wait for the war. They actually think they're at war with the people.
Yeah, there is a police war against the people. It's just that people don't realize it yet.
And he trained them for that.
Yep.
Train them to believe they're at war with the community.
And they've recently, on August 4th, the cops in Portland protected the fascists.
Yep,
And it's
I saw
attempted
that.
murder. They shot tear gas grenades. They're supposed to do it at a 15-degree angle, so there's an arc, and it doesn't hit people directly. But they were smiling, and this is all on tape.
Yes.
Smiling as they shot these canisters directly at people. And if that kid hadn't been wearing a helmet, they'd be dead right now.
We've seen that,
And
I
there's
yeah.
saw it at
also-
Standing Rock when they shot the one, I don't know if it was...
Oh, yeah, they basically blew her arm
the
off.
woman's arm
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
They've rolled I won't say when, but they've rolled a tear gas grenade under my skirt. They're
crazy.
aiming for balls and bits and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's,
It's like...
They're cruel.
Metro goes and trains with the Israeli army. It reminds me of, the snipers in Israel taking out,
right,
Palestinians.
this is what they
aim for pregnant women, and they, 2-for-1 type of deal.
But some of our response when the fascists come out, it's like every single time people shut them down. They don't allow them a platform at all, and they make it as difficult as possible to be a Nazi. And if the cops are going to protect them, then it's going to be pretty difficult to be a cop too.
Yeah.
And
Well, you see
people
them
can say
now.
what they want about that, but we've seen the effectiveness, because
Oh, yeah.
when they tried to do Charlottesville Point 2,
right.
15 people showed up.
Yeah.
So, guess what?
Well, there's that famous, it was a Hitler quote, right, where, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like, the only way they could have stopped me is if had the people done something when we were rising to power, basically.
People are doing things now, and they're going to get stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have shot Hitler when he was a baby.
Jeb Bush wanted to do that. He said he'd kill baby Hitler. It's like, hell yeah, I would.
I might have voted for him if I.
With that quote.
If he showed me the working time machine, I'd vote for it.
Right, yeah.
I would vote.
I interrupted Jeb, but
I still remember when we were chalking that day.
Yeah.
I wish I would have taken a picture because it was like the cop and you were like standing together.
Uh-huh.
I was too busy laughing to take a picture, but you guys were like staring at each other with your cameras.
yeah. It's that bald one that's the area commander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
love
saw a
that.
news
I love that
story.
they want to take pictures of us, and we're like, dude, we post our shit all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We're not scared of cameras like you.
Absolutely not.
That is funny as hell.
You're talking about Charlottesville. I just saw a news story that one of the guys that was with Vanguard America, turns out he was, which is a neo-Nazi group, turns out he was a corrections officer in
I guarantee you he's not the only
Georgia.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One thing they don't tell you about Charlottesville very often, Heather Heyer, when she's a wobbly, when she was murdered, it was the John Brown Gun Club with an AK-47 that captured her murderer. So had the John Brown Gun Club not been there with weapons to stop these fascists, he might have just drove off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's the
crazy.
importance of like having a community that responds to fascism.
That's
like
also
that.
one of those, those stories that came out that made a bunch of, got spread around a lot about how the KKK has infiltrated the police. And it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no, the police and the KKK have been fucking one and the same since it started. That's why they started wearing hoods originally, because they
Right.
didn't want people to know that was the mayor or the
Yeah.
Police chief.
police.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I just saw something in Boston now. There's like a blue bloc to like the black bloc. So like
Like
the
cops?
alt-right, no, they're,
Right.
well, they probably are for the same reason you're saying,
Well, right,
is to
yeah.
cover their
There's a
face
percentage of
so they
them,
don't
yeah.
get doxxed, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
There have been officers fired for being Proud Boys.
yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that too.
There's,
I think it was in Washington.
Officers with swastika tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is nothing unusual or nothing
Well,
new.
yeah, in Philadelphia, they said that that's authorized. That's part
Yep.
of, you're allowed to wear a Nazi tattoo as a cop.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Unbelievable.
It's not against policy.
I'm sure it was policy at one time too.
I'm a white supremacist, but I'm going to treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're about at 3:30. So
All right, do you guys want to?
we have a special,
do this?
yeah, well,
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for
anytime.
coming on.
So,
Anytime you're back in town,
well, we
Okay.
want
we'll
to,
make a special spot for you on,
Excellent, thank you.
maybe you could be our foreign correspondent,
I could, yeah.
yeah. Or
when they
Olympia
need a bleed
correspondent.
screen for that.
Huh?
Then they need a bleed screen for that.
Yeah,
We're
we-
gonna
or
get that
split-
going. We're gonna go on tour.
Yeah.
We're gonna put a blue screen.
So we have a
Oh, there's one
partner
more
show?
thing,
Oh,
one more thing I wanted to update on a story that we played the clip. It was in Mesa, Arizona, those officers that beat the gentleman because he wouldn't sit down. It was
By
like
the
3
elevator.
officers, yeah, by the elevator, pounded him. Yeah, they're not facing any charges, so
Yeah, they
just
decided
a
there was
quick little
nothing.
update on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
So,
surprise, I know.
so how are we gonna do this? We have,
So stay tuned. We're going to end this broadcast, but Center for Science and Wonder is going to come on next, and we're going to share that out on our page as well. If you haven't yet, go check out their page, give them a like so you can find out the events that they got going on. And yeah, so
we're creating a dynamo here. We're gonna,
Doing it.
that's right, a huge podcasting network. So now we have a sister show coming up. Guys, you gotta stay and listen. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up a little bit so we could set up our new studio, and you're gonna hear some amazing stuff coming up.
And he's not just saying that. We've been writing down the people that are watching, and you have to listen.
We do know who you are. Yeah, we see, we get your IP addresses, and so, all right, thank you all for listening. Next week, we'll be doing this again, maybe. We don't want to give out too much information, but
yeah, I might be out of town next week, so we might have to skip a week. We don't know. We'll keep you posted.
yeah, solidarity.
All right, thanks for tuning in.
We had the greatest hits this week.
Yeah.